What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are in the shop and we're going to be working on the Gladiator. So if you are new to the channel, this is my 2020 Jeep Gladiator. It has the 3.6 liter motor, gas motor, and then it has the 6-speed manual transmission. I've done a few videos on this Jeep in the past on my channel. I did a long arm kit on the front, and then I did some steering upgrades, and I did just a couple of things just along the way, the front bumper, sliders, stuff like that. And also I re-geared it and then put a locker in the front, which changed the entire game for that Jeep. So this has kind of been like my daily driver slash rock crawler when everything else I have is broken. And this is really, I can drive this Jeep anywhere and do some moderate trails and then drive home with my wife and kids sitting in the air conditioner, no issues. This is more or less a weekend warrior and daily driver, taking the kids to karate and baseball practice. So it's no secret that there are some weak points on these Gladiators and the JLUs and the JLs. So the ones that didn't opt for the diesel motor, you pretty much got stuck with the aluminum knuckles on here. And that just sounds like a terrible idea. I don't know why in the world they would do that. We're going to be getting rid of the aluminum knuckles, and then at the same time we're going to be upgrading the ball joints because this thing is at 60,000 miles. It's never had ball joints. I don't have death wobble and I don't plan on it. So I've got 37s on it right now, and I just want to make sure that my ball joints are going to not fail me on the trail in the future. So I'm going to kind of go ahead and do some pre-maintenance on that while the knuckles are off. And then at the same time, I'm going to be doing a steering upgrade. So turning these 37s on the road is perfectly fine. But whenever I'm off-road, I'm in low range and my locker's engaged and everything like that, these 37s really don't want to turn on the factory system. I did install the steel box. I did take the aluminum box that was on here off, and everything works great except for when I'm doing some slow tire speed rock crawling. So let me show you my solutions. Right here, this is the Apex Performance Products, the steering boost kit. So basically this system right here is ran by an electronic pump. You can basically increase the pressure of that steering pump with this boost kit. So that's just kind of like the odds and ends pieces that you need for the cooler. So this is all that comes in the kit right here. So in this box, you have your dial indicator, your pressure, your PSI indicator, and then you have all the pieces that you need to go on the steering box there. And we'll go into that in depth. And then right here is everything for the cooler. So whenever you turn up that pressure, that fluid is going to get a lot hotter a lot quicker, so you have to find a way to dissipate the heat. And with this cooler right here, you can see that nice cooler. You can get rid of that heat through those fins and you'll be good to go. Sliding over to the more obvious things, these are the new Synergy JL and JT steering knuckles, and they do come with the instructions, and I do have a passenger side and driver side. Then we come over to the ball joints. These are the Dynatrac ball joints, and I did get the installation tool for the JT Gladiators and the JL Wranglers. And then it comes with all the hardware needed for those. I think I'm gonna go ahead and start with the steering boost kit. So in order to do that, I have to pretty much take the whole front of the Jeep off. I have to get the cooler on right there. So the grill has to come off, the bumper has to come off, winch has to come off, because that cooler is going to mount, I believe it's right somewhere right up in there. But that's what we do. We tear stuff apart and we build it back a lot stronger and a lot better than it was from the factory. So I thought I had to take the bumper, the whole bumper off, but I may not have to because I just loosened up the winch and I could slide the grill out of the way. I did take the winch off, but it's just sitting here. So I'm gonna try to do this without taking the front bumper completely off, because that would save me a ton of time right there. And there is just enough space in there, I believe, to get that cooler. So I'm just going to leave the bumper on for right now. But if I have to take it off, I gotta take it off. It is what it is. But it's one of those situations where I'm just trying to find a path of least resistance in order to get what I want. So in the meantime, I'm just gonna leave it the way it is right now and roll on. So the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to get this airbox assembly out of the way right here. So I'm going to take the So with the airbox out of the way, you can see how dirty it is in here, but you can also see this little fresh air duct right there. That has to get took out. And the end of that is right here. So I've got to pop these little fasteners out. So I'm gonna start trying to, I got to get this out of the way, and then I have to take out these two screws right there. They went serious on the Loctite on that one. More! So now I can get my Allen wrench right here. Start taking these off right there. So I've got that fresh air duct out. Place that right over there. So now I'm going to be taking out the power steering reservoir here. Ooh, not with that. And I'm just leaving it all connected right now. I'm not taking anything out. So I got that loose there. So it's kind of hard to get the camera in there, but you can see you have this airbox support bracket right here, and I'm going to be taking that out of the way. That way I can get this pump out right here. Taking the 10mm wrench to that. So then you can take off one more 10mm bolt. So there's that bracket right there, and it had a fastener on it, and then there was a nut right there that I had to take off. Up under the fender well here, it's kind of tight, but I have the fender liner kind of pulled up out of the way, and so you can see here's the pump that we are after. And so there is two 13mm bolts right there that I'm going to be taking out. So the next thing that we're going to be doing, we're going to be taking off this hose right here. It is a 10mm bolt, and it will drip a little bit up. And it should come right off with no fight at all. See, there goes the goo. All right, so then we're going to be cutting this hose, the lower hose right there. We're going to be cutting that. So just make sure you got some cardboard or something, or a catch can down there to catch it all. So I've got the pump loose, and I'm going to turn it on its side just a little bit. And you can see I've got the large wiring connector and I've got the smaller one. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect those. So I've got the red pieces out. This one actually broke. It was caked with mud. Go figure there. So I'm going to push down right there. Just slowly start prying that out of the way. Just going really, really slow. You do not want to break this. Alright, so we got that out. You can see the reason I was having trouble is because there was some mud in there. Good old URI mud. And I did spray these with some electrical cleaner just to give some sort of a lubrication to them while they were coming out. But you can see right there I had mud all in these connectors. So if you have this in yours, you definitely want to clean that out. So now I should be able to take this pump all the way out. So the first thing I'm going to do is try to clean this up as much as I can. So I've got to cover up any of the exposed holes right there because I don't want any of the dirt going in there, but I've got to get all this dirt off of there. So I'm going to go ahead and take this hose off right here, the one that we cut. Save the little clamp there. So now just take that off. Just make sure that's good and clean. So now we're going to be taking the hose that came with the kit and getting a hose clamp on. And then we're just going to be pushing this on here like so. And now I'll be sliding this down just like that. All right. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to be removing this Allen head bolt from the port valve. And this is something that you have to do outside of the vehicle. So this has to be facing up. You cannot do this inside of the vehicle. So this is probably the most critical part of this whole deal here. So I'm just going to slowly get this up. So the reason I cleaned this thing up so well is because I don't want any debris or dirt going inside of this pump. So now I'm going to slowly take this out. See it right there? So I'm going to put that to the side. So there is a spring and there is a spring guide. So I'm going to take a pick. You can use a magnet, but I have a pick within arm's reach. So I'm going to take the spring. And so here's your spring. And then here's your spring guide. So you want to make sure both of these come out. So the next thing that we're going to find in the box that everything came in is the new spring. So this is the new spring right here. And this is the old spring guide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some good old American red and tacky right here and go ahead and push that in just a little bit. And I'm going to make sure that spring and the spring guide are one. I'm going to put a little bit more red and tacky on there. You do not want this to go in incorrectly because then it will not build any pressure at all. So this is the new blow-off valve that comes in it. That comes with the kit. So I'm just going to feed everything in. Make sure that red and tacky is all good. And so now I'm going to take this whole new blow-off valve assembly and make sure, once again, that it's not going to come apart. And I'm just going to slowly guide that in. And it should go right on in, nice and easy, just like it's doing here. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So now make sure you get your lid right back on your red and tacky. Save this for another day. Now I'm going to be torquing this down to 6 foot-pounds. There we go. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this set screw right here is all the way out. I found this on the Apex's YouTube video. You just want to make sure you want to turn it in just a little bit and then back it up, and it should stop right there. You just want to make sure that it's backed up all the way. It's how it ships, but just to be sure, just the way you don't damage anything, just make sure that that set screw is all the way up before you install it back into the Jeep. So I'm just going to feed this line back down there. Of course, it's got a twist in it, naturally. So I'm going to feed this back down into here. I probably should have got my winch wires out of the way. So I have the steering box back in place, and now I'm going to just be putting these 2 bolts back inside of the frame here. So now that I have the pump back in, I need to torque everything down properly. Instead of Googling just 1,000 different torque specs on everything that I've took off here today, I'm just going to jump over to my eManual here. So eManualOnline is basically what it sounds like. It is a complete service manual for thousands of different vehicles online. All I have to do is just go to the index on the first page, and I can go down to, this is page 2,398 of 17,377. All I did was send in the VIN number of my 2020 Jeep Gladiator with a 3.6 manual transmission, and they sent me literally a complete manual of everything, every part number, every wiring harness, every single detail of this vehicle is in this manual. So now what I can do is just use my laptop. This is the steering pump removal and installation for a left-hand drive Jeep Gladiator. And it shows you exactly how to disconnect the supply lines, the wiring harness, and then it even has quick reference points for different things where you have to take out the air cleaner and everything like that. So it tells you that before, and then you can just click on that and it takes you right to it. And it even shows you how to bleed the steering system. So super huge shout out to eManualOnline. They are today's sponsor of this video, and I'm definitely going to be using this from now on. Anytime I pop the hood, anytime I do anything with this Jeep, I'm going to have this laptop open with my eManual open. So if you would like one of these eManuals for your vehicle, make sure you check out eManualOnline. I'll put a link in the description below, and I actually have a discount code that you can use to save 22% off of this manual. So the next thing that we're going to be doing is installing this pressure tap piece right here. And it's going to be going in place of the high pressure line that is on top. And I'll show you how that goes on now. So sorry for the terrible lighting, but you can see right here, this is the line that came out of the pump originally. So I'm going to scoot that over, and I'm going to install this piece right here. And I am making sure that the O-ring on this is lubricated before I install it. I'm just going to push that in like that. And now I'm going to take this one and just sandwich it in between. Take the supplied Allen bolt tighten that up. And I'm not going to go crazy tight with this because it will be coming back off. But I just want to make sure that it's just seated properly. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to install the gauge. I'm just taking some pipe thread compound, but this stuff works pretty good. So I'm just going to get those into all the threads like that. Just like that. Now we're going to be installing it to the hose that comes with the kit. So there is an O-ring on the end of this hose for the gauge. You just want to make sure this is properly lubricated with some power steering fluid before you tighten it up. So now that I have the gauge installed, I'm going to go ahead and just reconnect those wiring harnesses. So up under the driver's side fender well here, I'll kind of zoom in. This is the line that goes to the steering gear, and we're actually going to be cutting this right above that crimp. All right, so got my bucket up underneath. Here we go. So this is the line that I just cut. This is just the hard line portion of it. And it's got a 10mm bolt on both sides. And I should be able to pull it all out as one, but I may have to end up cutting it and taking it out as two pieces. All right, so we got the cooler right here, and then we have some barbs that we're going to be putting on. And you just wanted to verify that the O-ring is on there. And then I'm going to take some power steering pump fluid and just lubricate the O-rings. I'll pour it in the cap. Ooh, it comes out fast. But I'm just going to lubricate this really good before installing them in the cooler here. Same thing on this one. Dippy dippy. Nice and lubricated. All right, so now we're going to be torquing these down. I think these go down to 7 foot-pounds. That's really random. So now we're going to be sliding these little tabs in right here. These are the pieces that we're going to be needing to install this cooler on the Jeep to the brackets. Once you get both of the special nuts in this channel here, you'll take the bracket and they will go on just like so. Just like that. I'm just going to leave them loose for right now. I'll do the same thing for this one. All right, so now we're up under the Jeep here, and I have the high pressure line pulled up out of the way. And so now I have the cooler right here. And so I'm just gonna pull this down. So now I'm gonna be tightening up these 2 bolts on the cross member right here. I still have the top of the cooler loose. That way I can adjust it back and forth as I need be, because I don't have the hoses connected just yet. So got those tight. Now I can kind of push this back out of the way. All right, so now I'm going to take this hose. This is the low pressure hose. I'm going to be taking this, and I'm going to be just giving myself some slack, just a little bit of slack. And I'm just going to figure out where it can go onto this cooler, where it's not going to be hitting anything, not kinked or anything like that. So about right there. All right, so I'm going to be right about here. Ah. Oh God, oh God, oh God. Make sure you put the hose clamp on, and then just make sure that the barb is lubricated with power steering fluid, but as you can see, I have everything in my shop lubricated with power steering fluid. So now I'm just gonna push this onto that barb. Hopefully y'all can see it. Slide the hose clamp over. That side's good. On the driver's side fitting, I'm just going to do the same thing. Slide that on. And then make sure my barb is lubricated. And then make sure this goes across the barb. You can see the low pressure hose that we cut earlier. I'm going to be lining this up with that as close as possible, about right there. Now I'm going to be cutting it flush. Now I'll be putting the clamp on, and then it comes with a barb. I've got it lubricated. I'm just going to push this into the hose so that gets seated. So that's all the way seated. Alright, so once I get that clamp on there, just let it go. And that's it. Now I just got to put this fender back. So now that I have all of the low pressure lines and the high pressure lines all zip tied up out of the way down there, I'm going to fill the system up. This Mopar electronic power steering fluid. So I'm just going to fill this up to the max. Right there at the top. And I'm going to put the lid on. I'm going to tighten that up all the way. And now I'm going to crank the vehicle, and I'm going to, with the Jeep on its own weight, I'm just going to turn the tires back and forth just a little bit. And I'm going to watch this. I'm going to have someone watch the fluid as it goes down. Once it gets to the minimum right here, I'm going to stop, open it back up, and refill it. And just that's how you bleed the system. You just go a little bit back and forth until all the bubbles and everything goes away. And then you start turning it all the way back and forth, and it'll get all the air out of the system through this right here. Now that I have the fluid stabilized, so as my dad was turning the steering wheel, I was watching this just drop and the bubbles come up. So now that I've got this pretty much stable where it is sitting on its own weight and it's not showing any more bubbles. So now this comes to the point where you have to actually turn up the pressure. And this is also a two-person job. So I'm gonna get my dad to stay in the Jeep, and I'm going to turn the dial indicator on the pressure switch. So I can't really show you because it's kind of awkward inside the vehicle, but this piece right here where we put in the spring and the spring guide, we're actually going to be turning that a quarter turn every time, just testing for the pressure. And we're going from 500 psi to 2000 psi on this pump. We're not going to go any more than 2000 because it's going to damage the pump. I'm going to get my Allen wrench, and I'm just going to do a quarter turn and then get my dad to turn the wheel. And so I'm going to be testing the psi, just making sure that I'm not going above 2000 psi on the system. Now I'm going to be tightening this up just a quarter turn at a time. So that little piece that I had originally verified that it was backed all the way out, now I'm going to be going a quarter turn at a time until I get the pressure that I'm wanting. Alright, start turning the steering wheel. Now that I have the pressure where I want it, it's right at 2000 psi, I can take off that gauge and the sandwich plate. So let me see if I can get you in there. So that sandwich plate that we have previously installed. We're going to be taking that out. We're going to be taking this out and putting the factory bolt back in. And then we're just going to be putting this line back to where it was. So I have that line torqued back down. Now I can go back and pretty much just reverse everything that I did. And so I'm going to be using my eManualOnline just to go through, just to make sure that I get all my torque specs correct when I'm putting everything back in, just because a lot of this stuff is plastic on these Jeeps, and if you torque them too much, or if you just put an impact driver on, you're going to crack it. So that pretty much does it for the Apex steering boost kit. Really, the only thing I have left is to clean up just where I leaked out all up underneath it. I had cardboard boxes, but it kind of leaked all through, and then it made a huge mess. Definitely, I would put some plastic down. Hindsight, I wish I'd have done that. So before, like if I was in the drive-thru at Chick-fil-A, I couldn't turn those 37s sitting still. I would have to start rolling and then turn. Like, it just would not do it. Even with the new steel upgraded steering box, it still wouldn't turn. But watch this. Watch how easy it turns. This is great. I cannot wait to get this on the trail. I'm probably going to end this video right here just because I want to kind of dedicate one video to the steering boost kit, and then in the next video I'm going to be putting on the knuckles and the ball joints. I'm going to be doing a review, like real world tests on this steering boost kit to see if you would need one on your vehicle. Anyway guys, I appreciate y'all watching. If you don't mind, hit that like button and make sure that you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on any other content like this. Huge shout out to one of the channel's new sponsors. It is eManualOnline. You can check them out. I will put a link in the description below where you can actually get 22% discount. Ever since I got the eManualOnline, I felt like a computer nerd, just going through and just making sure that I've got everything right. If you're OCD like me, that manual is definitely for you. So definitely check them out, and thank y'all for supporting the channel. But anyway guys, we'll see y'all on the next one.